your injury, Jana. Hey, what's up, Dev Tips? We're live. I'm Travis. This is Max. Which one of these is
What's up,
Max? And
everybody?
Jane is down there.
I'm Max.
Yeah, welcome to the party. It's Saturday. No, it's Sunday. That's how my
Sunday sermon.
day's been. I've been up since 4 a.m. I went surfing this morning. Got some salt in my face. Feeling good. How are y'all? How y'all feeling?
I like this weather. We have like kind of like a hurricane coming through, so
Yeah, I was telling Max.
nice and rainy, kind of windy.
It's terrifying. Anytime there's a hurricane warning for the islands, I'm always like, it is only a matter of time until they just sink into the water, and the earth will swallow them up eventually.
What a beautiful place to be swallowed up, right?
It is a beautiful place.
Be swallowed up.
I don't think it's gonna happen soon, but
okay. It's all right. I'm down. No, I'm just kidding.
Swallowing is awesome. All right. Well, I was thinking today this week about what topics we want to talk about. And last time we met, Max, you gave us this awesome tour of your audio workflow, and I was pretty inspiring. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about my screenwriting. So I took up on a personal project. I was inspired by Jana. She's done some screenwriting in the past, and I had this interesting story idea that I thought was cool, and I told it to a few of my friends and a few people, and they're like, "Are you writing that? Oh my God, are you writing that?" And I was like, "No," and then they're like, "You should." I'm like, "Yeah, and then so I just picked it up and I started writing and learning about screenwriting, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and writing, screenwriting is interesting type of writing in the way that there are lots of rules. And people will be like, oh, the rules of formatting and the rules of, indenting this much and stuff. And yes, that's true. But when I talk about rules, I'm talking about there's a lot of structure that goes into a screenplay. And an easy one to understand is, usually movies are around 2 hours or less, around that mark. And they say that the average, it's like 1 minute per page average. And so your screenplay is about 120 pages. So that's like a really good boundary. And so if you're going to sit down and write a book, who knows how long a book is? How long is a book? I don't know.
That's an interesting limitation. What would you say is the difference between a script and a screenplay?
Those words are synonymous, except for a script could be a stage play.
Yeah, it could be like
What's the difference between a screenplay and a stage play?
One's on the screen. like a movie is a screenplay.
But they're both written the same.
If they have the same, I'm not sure.
There's some different parameters on it because you have in a live play you have different background changes, scene changes. It's a lot of
and you would say exit stage left kind of things where you would say, and you can do. This is a fun thing I like about screenwriting is that you can think of the camera as a creative tool. Be like the camera moves this way, use close in, you can talk about the direction,
describe your establishing shot.
Yeah. And although there is you want to give the director space to do their thing, but they're also if you have a good idea, if you want to say, okay, punch in on this thing while they grab the credit card, show the number or something like that. It's fun to have those little interjections creatively, right? So you can I have this one scene where
hi Clark.
Oh, what?
What's up, Clark?
Do you not see the live comments?
Oh, I didn't have it. I don't have it open.
Clark?
I was like,
Clark.
Which one of us is correct? Hey, Clark's back. Hey, happy Sunday, Dev Tips
we
in
are
chat.
All Clark.
Dude, thanks for jumping in, Clark, and being active.
Yeah, we appreciate you showing up.
Yeah, Jane and I were talking about this in the intervening weeks. It's kind of fun. It's a lot of fun to have you guys being active in the chat. We maybe want to turn up, the interactivity of it. Invite you guys to engage more with the comments and stuff. So that's a lot of fun. Get turned on them comments. But anyway, getting back to the screenplay, I really like it because there's a lot of those things. And what's interesting, compared to the big nebulous what is a book, how do you write a book versus how do you write a screenplay? There's so much structure and already wisdom and standardization on that. I feel like it's very, very similar using a lot of the similar creative muscles as UX design, which I kind of normally live in every day. So in UX design, there are heuristics, like, does this work? Like, is that button tappable? Can the user navigate this flow? Like, just simple, obvious things like that. In screenplay, it's a lot like that too. Like, each character, do they have a motivation? Do they have an obstacle? Do they have a belief? And these kind of things. And you can bubble that up into like these really, really fun philosophical themes, And
are you doing your character development like outside of this process, or part of the screenwriting you're developing the characters as you, like, do you have like a separate document with like thought bubbles or some kind of outline where you're doing character indexing and character development, or is it just part of the process of screenwriting for you?
I'm excited to show you. Let me show you this. I have this app that I've been using. Let me do a screen share. Okay, so
what's the app called?
Well, there's a standard. There's like an app that it has been around in the industry a long time, and it's called Final Draft.
Final Draft, yeah.
And I tried that, and I didn't like it. It didn't really stick for me. And actually, the first thing that I used was Trello. Mm-hmm. And I went through Trello, and I made like actually very similar to what we see here, where each of these columns was, an act, and. But anyway, this app is called Arc Studio, and it has this functionality built in where you can take these beats, these story beats, and you write like a little summary, and then there's a script built in, and so you can go in between these story beats really easily between the script and the story beats.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
Cool.
Because I was using Figma when I was writing those little story beats, and then writing it into Final Draft. So it's kind of cool that it's like.
Yeah, this one is cool, and also on this panel here, I have like each character, and I can like talk about what they believe and what they kind of like, what they do. I can give them.
Are these categories customizable? Like, you have storylines and characters, but can you just make like arbitrary ones? Or
these three, I think, are kind of standard. Again, in the world of screenplays, like, these things are very important. Characters,
well, the reason
locations.
I ask is because this software, this type of process seems pretty advantageous even for content creation. To quickly be like, here's my shots, here's like the message, let me turn it into a script, and then do your video. And I've been kind of looking for something to help speed up that process. But this looks pretty awesome.
This is super like optimized for screenwriting. So like, like the indentations, which is like screenwriting famously is like, if you don't do the thing right, it's nobody's gonna read it, kind of, they talk like that a lot.
But there's a lot of parameters. Like I was telling Travis, it's kind of like web development in the way that it's the back end and then the movie is like the front end. So you have like certain formula to it. And I think this is really cool, Travis. I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, I haven't showed you this app. So, but I have been like hacking it a little bit. So like I made a temporary column where I just want to talk about Thomas's journey, and they have these notes where you can like, I guess I didn't write his note.
Does it create like a character Bible, what they call, like, for you?
Not really, but I talk about, I made my own, like I go, this is what we know about this character,
It looked like, here where you do have that sidebar, the other sidebar, and it shows characters. Did you populate that, or is that populating? Because I see storylines, characters, locations, and then I see a button to import from script. Is this like auto generating that?
I put each of one of these in manually, but in the script, you have these moments where you identify characters, by what they're talking. And if I hit that button, it would bring in all of them. So like I have this one guy, his name is husband number one. I haven't named him yet. I just know that there needs to be like a couple, and this guy is talking. And if I hit import, he would show up here. Okay. But I'll probably name him later and do it manually, just to have like a little bit more awareness of where everything's going.
Var husband number one.
Yeah, I set up a variable for this husband. Yeah. And so script writing. Here's wife two. Script writing is a lot of fun, and I'm learning about it. Like I'm always like watching these, YouTube videos. There's a lot of really good resources out there about like, what does it mean to create a character? Like what what do they need in order to exist in a world of story and stuff like that. And I'm learning about the story circle and other mechanisms to help structure things. But yeah, it's really, really cool. And one of the things that I thought we might take a little bit more time to talk about today is like with something like this, nobody's paying me to do this. This is just kind of a thing that I'm doing because I'm interested. I feel creatively energized when I do it. I feel like I'm telling a story that in some ways I identify with these characters. Like I can see pieces of me in them, and like there's a little bit of like, I don't know, is there therapy going on? I don't know, like, something like that.
It might be cathartic.
Yeah. And I've tried to write books. I think in one of our first episodes, I read to you like this kind of like thing that I wrote, and it was just kind of all over the place. And I've tried to write before, but screenwriting, because it has like these narrow parameters for success, like and all this wisdom about like what works and what doesn't work, it has really helped accelerate that journey. And I've never also before, when I've tried to write something, have 100% of this thing blocked out in structure before. So this has been monumental for me. I can show you my Trello before I got this app, which looks very similar. But this has been so helpful to me to like block everything out, understand the journey of the story before I even start like writing the actual script.
Yeah, the architecture. That's super important for me. That's why seeing this seems so useful in so many other contexts, like just general content creation or creating a tutorial video. Like having that script written beforehand is monumental. But for me, like just sitting down and writing that, I go through the process where I'd rather have an outline. I need to see kind of like the framework and structure, and then you can fill it in with words.
Yeah. It's very similar to when you're sharing or when you're building like a web project, right? Like you make a plan, you write documents,
wireframes, mock-ups.
Yeah. In the corporate world, like we will write written out documents about what our goals are, what we're going to achieve, what does the flow look like, even before we're drawing pictures, even before we're doing wireframes or mock-ups or anything like that. Clark says, Travis is a true Renaissance man, but that app seems like a great tool for use case scenarios. Yeah, it is narrowly focused on screenwriting. I think there may be other like modes it can do, like to help you write other types of writing, but I'm focused on screenwriting. But
well, it seems like those cards are synced with the sections of the script, right?
Isn't that cool? Yeah. So if I go to
you can use that for quite a few different things.
Right.
I mean, it'll be formatted for screenwriting, but I don't think that really matters.
Yeah, it's really great. Like I just write a title for what the thing is, and later on I can come and fill in the details. And then when I'm ready, I hit this little button and it opens it in the script. And I can write it. Yeah. And then there's also, let me see here.
That's really dope.
There's like a focus thing I can do.
What's that called?
It's called Arc, A-R-C, Arc Studio.
Oh, like story arc. Cool.
Yeah. If you focus on the script, it'll like remove everything else, so you just have this one little thing. Like this is, and like in terms of like goals and trying to write, like I try to do a minimum of one scene a day. Like that's like, if I don't do anything else on this, at least I'm writing one scene. Mostly I'm trying to do more, and then this focus mode really helps you to kind of feel like this is my whole world right now. I just need to do this little thing, and it's really nice.
Do you want to tell us what your story's about?
Not so much. That's not really the point of bringing this up, but I do want to talk about one aspect of this experience that I think has been really, really cool, and it's applicable to any type of project you're doing. So as I was talking about before, is like, this is a self-initiated project. I don't have a lot of experience. Nobody is like telling me, hey, we already paid you. Where is it? Like a lot of the times in my life, the only way I can ever get things done is by having a due date, like I'm like very much work by the crunch time, and
I have a thing about that.
What's your thing? Tell me your thing.
Well, a lot of people are very proud of themselves when they're like, I work well under pressure. But I think a lot of people don't work unless there's pressure applied.
That's it. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And you do have to learn how to apply pressure, or learn how to just get the thing done without pressure.
Yeah.
It is difficult to do both, really.
Is that where your weekly accountability sessions are helpful to you?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. This is really what I want to talk about. And like this strategy for getting things done could be helpful for for people listening to the podcast, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit more. But if you guys recall, we had Sam on the podcast months ago. Sam, he's a designer that I met, and we hang out. He's my surf buddy, and we were having coffee, and he's one of those guys. I was telling him my story, and he was like, "Oh, interesting. What about this?" And we were just kind of like, it's fun to have an interesting kernel of a story and throw it at people. Like I've thrown it to a few friends. We have fun. But I was like, he was like, "You definitely should write this," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And then I was like, why don't you help me just by holding me accountable, and I'll call you every Tuesday, and we've set up a time in a day, and I call him every week on the same time. And it's not that he's grading my papers. It's not that I have to read it to him and he gives me feedback. That's not really, although sometimes that's what happens.
He's an accountability buddy.
I like that phrase.
Oh my gosh.
An accountability buddy.
Okay, we're making a site. We're gonna have Accountabilibuddies.
Dude,
match
I
up
didn't
with.
make it up. It's actually from South Park.
Oh, what's the story
Episode
on
of South Park? An old episode. I think it's the Casa Bonita episode, maybe. He makes Butters and Eric accountability buddies.
Accountabilibuddies. Yes, having an accountability buddy.
I've always wanted an accountability buddy.
That's really
Yes.
Let's
get that going.
Jana, you think you can make like a service where you sign up and you can hire an accountability buddy?
Yeah, why not?
There are these websites. I forget the name of it, but I was listening to somebody talk about it, where you sign up on this website and you commit a certain amount of money and a date. And if you don't have your thing done by the date, it just takes the money.
Oh, yeah.
I heard about that. Yeah, a couple sites, and there was a kind of a big movement for a little bit, and it was the build in public thing, and that was all about accountability, be about like broadcasting, saying what you're gonna build, and like being accountable. But so many people like do say stuff like,
right.
"Oh yeah,
it's New Year's, I'm gonna go to the gym," and then they stop, they fall off, and they just don't.
I mean, that's it, right? Like, who's holding them accountable?
Yeah. It's so easy to hop on a Zoom call and you just have to like show what you've done that week or talk about it at least, and then
right. Because I don't want to show up and waste this dude's time. I don't want to be like, I didn't do anything. I had car trouble and it was really busy. Sorry. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah. That's why you'll wake up at 5 a.m. to go surfing with these guys, because they're there waiting for you to go surfing.
That's true. That's true. When it's like a week off and I'm going on my own, I go like at 6. I go much later in the day. Yeah. So that's the whole thing I thought would be interesting to talk about, is like the idea of accountability buddy.
Cute. That's actually why I haven't finished my script.
Because you have no accountability.
No accountability buddy.
Accountability.
I need one of those.
Where are you gonna find one?
I don't know. Who wants to be my accountability buddy?
Not me.
I know.
If I hold you accountable, I'm like, where is it? And you're like, I have so many things to do. I'm like, yeah, you do. Also,
Travis and I are cute in the way that I feel like we can enable each other to do things that we shouldn't be doing.
What are you talking about?
Sometimes,
what is this?
Like, like eating ice cream or.
Oh, I love ice cream.
Yeah. Sometimes, like, we can Netflix and chill. But
no,
there's other things.
There's some wisdom there. Like, your accountability buddy should be somebody who's not necessarily emotionally close to you. Mm-hmm. Like, this is like essentially a boss man. Yeah. Boss person who you have to show up and be like, you have to give an excuse to, and hopefully it's a good news. And if you're too close to them, if they understand your daily life, it's easy to make an excuse to them, and they'll forgive you too easily. And if I showed up to my accountability meetings like a few weeks in a row with nothing to do, maybe he would just not want to show up.
Right.
Next, like he would. Yeah. Right. So there's a responsibility I have to the whole system, to the relationship, to that person. I've asked them, right? It's me putting myself out there to say, I need this help. And then if they help me out and I'm not pulling through, that sucks for them, and that's on me. So maybe it's somebody that you know and can trust and rely on, but maybe that is not an emotional, like they won't give you that leeway.
Yeah, the cool thing about Sam though is he asks a lot of questions and then he also gives really great feedback. And I feel like he's kind of attached to the culture of where your story takes place, so he can give you a lot of insight on that way.
That's true. Yeah. My story takes place in Japan, which I'm having trouble with. Like sometimes I write and I'm like, I don't know that stuff very well. But he lived there for 10 years. He's married to a Japanese person. And I have a few other resources that I can ask about.
It is important to be careful that you're not looking for approval from your accountability buddy.
That's right. That's right.
Because I was thinking like, because I don't have accountability buddies. Like I like, when, especially with like design, I can show it to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, it looks great," and I'm like,
you like you don't know.
Like with music, I'll send it to people and they're like, "Yeah, it sounds cool." I'm like, "Yeah, but is the snare too hot?" Like they don't know. I'm like, I need someone who knows more than me to be my accountability buddy to give me some good feedback.
Okay.
That's not an accountability buddy. That's like a mentor.
Right.
That is something different. Accountability buddy is just like, I'm doing it, whether you think it's good or not, or I'm getting useful feedback. It doesn't matter. I'm still showing up, and you're a reason to, I guess.
That's right. Like I was talking to him this morning. I was like, the value of our sessions is not that you're giving me great feedback, although I appreciate the feedback and all the encouragement, but it's just that you're there. Really is for you to stand there and be like, Travis, did you do the thing? And that's really it. But it does, I guess, help that he's written a book before.
He's a good sounding board, though.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. Because if you get an accountability buddy that's just like, okay, great, that's fine, I guess. So like, you kind of do need a sounding board also.
That makes sense.
Right.
And somebody who kind of like knows what it takes. You know?
Whose opinion you respect. Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching this video this week, and this screenwriting person, she was like, a lot of screenwriters get the flu when their screenplay is 90% done. You know, like things come up. Oh, I need to finish the story, but things came up. Like that happens a lot, she says.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
Have you ever watched Adaptation?
I have, yeah. I think also on your recommendation, we were talking before we started streaming, there's several movies that you've recommended. And you always recommend a banger. So yeah, Adaptation. What do you think about that one? Why you bring it up?
Well, because he's a screenwriter and he's like hired to do the screen adaptation of the book, the Lotus book.
Yeah.
And Nick Cage, he has his twin brother.
I love it. He plays both roles.
He plays his own brother.
His brother is like such a dummy, but like is having all this success.
I love that movie. I might watch that movie tonight. Actually, I love that movie so much.
I thought you were gonna watch Rocky. I was telling Jane, I was telling Max that we watched Rocky. It's inspirational and also very awkward.
I recently watched Scary Movie again. That was so silly.
Scary Movie? Like the spoof?
Oh, no, sorry. Scream.
Scream, okay.
Yeah.
Scream. Yeah.
Scream.
Well, yeah. But the, like, talking about different shots, like there's like, you can see like now, like after you start studying screenwriting, you can see like the intentional things and how would they write that? And it's just kind of funny. That movie was like very much trying to be cinematography wise, like a little out there, but even though it's like kind of a silly movie.
Well, in that movie specifically, it revolves around a few people who are into film, right? Like some of the characters are film buffs and they go to film class.
Yeah.
I think, don't know spoilers. But yeah, and so like that is a lot of fun that they kind of like they tell you what's going to happen, like, oh, that never happens till scene 3, and then like in scene 3 it like does or doesn't happen, and they play with your expectations that way. That's a lot of fun. I like that movie, mostly because of the stabs.
Yeah, it's always like lifted up really high. Like...
Yeah,
it is a classic.
Yeah,
I saw it in the theater back then.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
That was fun. That's a good experience when you would see movies in the theater. If you ever like went to like the opening night of Star Wars and everyone's like cheering and the crowd is like interacting with the movie, is really fun.
When have you had that experience? What films have you seen that has been very communal?
Yeah, I would say any opening night of any movie, really. Everyone's there to like see it first.
The biggest one. First of all, Scream. And like Phantom of the Menace, that was like peak high school for us.
Phantom of the Menace, dude. I remember.
Yeah.
The green Lucasfilm logo comes on, the crowd erupted. Phantom of the
Yeah.
Menace was
when
pretty
the
lit.
double red lightsaber dildo first showed up. People were like, what? Oh my god, it's so crazy.
And was that when Yoda was doing backflips too?
Yeah,
That was never.
Yeah.
That
Oh no, that was
yeah,
the
was one after. But yeah, that's that same era, right? Where like it was like, oh shit, Yoda has a lightsaber. Ah.
But the biggest opening.
Air
And when I
Bud.
say it, you guys will know. It
Oh.
was Independence Day.
Really? I saw that in the
Independence
theater.
Day. Will
What was
Smith, Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, dude. Well,
Who else? A bunch of
people were into it.
The opening of that was insane. Yeah, that was like a huge event when that movie came out.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater, but I didn't see it like opening night. I saw
didn't
The
see it on opening
Matrix
weekend?
though really early on. And correct me if I'm wrong, Max. Do you remember this? And I've said this to a few people, and maybe even guys in the chat. What Clark says,
That's cool.
stationed at El Toro when he
See
saw
it?
opening day.
And how
Ooh.
crazy was it, Clark?
Clark was there.
It was a
He
big
remembers.
Yeah, that
Remember
movie
the
was so hyped, and the marketing was the first time anybody had seen CGI, and it was a spaceship blowing up the White House. It was the craziest thing people had ever seen look real in a movie.
yeah.
You guys remember
and-
that?
Yeah.
Well, I remember the speech that the president gave.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so proud to be an American. Like I was like being really stirred. Like it was
That's
like
when
a
movies
great
were movies
speech.
and Americans
yeah.
were Americans. Yeah. Yeah. When Will
Back in
Smith
the
was
day.
was the man. Yeah.
Back when Will Smith was the man. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Now
Yeah.
he's having a hard time.
He's lost his mind a little bit, but
Well, he was
What are you gonna
in a few
Oh.
superhero movies or something that didn't really pan out.
it was all
Anyway.
the Suicide Squad stuff, which I hate, all the DC stuff. But Hancock was dope. He was
Hancock
he
was
a
so
superhero,
good,
Hancock.
right?
Yeah.
Hancock was
That
one of the
movie
better
was
superhero
the shit,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah. What was I gonna say now? Oh yeah, Clark says Hitchcock.
Was it Hitch? No, it was Hancock. Yeah.
And then Hitch. He was also in Hitch.
Oh yeah,
Right?
and he was. Just figured it all out.
That's so funny. Yeah. What was I gonna say though about The Matrix? Here's a question I was gonna ask y'all. I recall, and maybe like only my theater had a mix-up or something, but I recall The Matrix was PG-13 when I saw it. And then we went back to see it again. We loved it so much. My friend and I went back and it was rated R. And I was like, they changed it? That's crazy.
Was it rated R?
It is rated R currently.
Hmm.
The
I don't
Matrix,
know.
yeah. It
don't
shouldn't
remember
be.
being
It's
rated R.
pretty like
mild.
comic book action, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
They do wear leather, so I don't know, maybe that's a part of it.
Mhm.
The Matrix though was the most insane movie. Like and I had a buddy, this is back when I was in middle school, and we would theater hop all the time. And so we'd pay $5 for a movie ticket back in, I'm dating myself so hard right now, but $5 for a movie ticket. And then we would just spend all night, every Friday, spend all day, all night at the movie theater. And his parents would come and pick us up at midnight. What'd you guys see? And we'd be like, this, and this. And like that year, I had seen every movie that came out. And
Yeah, that was 99, right? When the Matrix.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Fight Club
yeah.
came out the same year. That was a big year for Dude's
Dude,
Rule. Yeah.
Face Off. I saw that in the theater. Bro. That was such
Face
a good.
Off. That was the
Remember
same
Face
year.
Off?
Oh yeah, John Woo. I could eat a peach all day. Come on now.
Eat a peach all day, dude. Oh my god, what a
Love that
good
movie.
line. Peach. I could eat a peach all day.
Mhm. Great
I used to
film.
think movie hopping was normal because my grandma would do it with us when we were little.
Yeah.
It was
So
normal.
I thought it was like the entrance to get into the movie theater until I was in middle school and I went with friends by myself and they're like, "Wait, what?" And like
You
yeah,
didn't know you're breaking the rules.
I didn't know.
She didn't
But-
know. I always
Yeah.
knew, but I
And
still
when you
did
found
it.
out, did you stop?
Oh no.
No, we would do that.
No,
We did that. We did that movie like dating, right?
Yeah, Jane and I would do it while we were married. We would just go to a few
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
If you
It
got
was
the
always
time.
fun to like try to time it to like figure out the schedule. Okay, if we
Yeah.
show up here, we can go see this
It's part
one.
of the fun.
To see how many you can
Oh
get.
yeah, we would hide behind the screen from the,
No, that's not. No, don't disclose that yet.
No, I won't tell them about that. But
Okay.
just in general, when I was a kid, like we would go and hide in like, you know how they have the curtains below the projector screen?
Mm-hmm.
We would go under the curtains and just hide from the ushers. Yeah, that's how I know about that spot.
When I was, how old was I? 17. I worked in a movie theater.
Oh, did you?
And quickly, like,
Huh.
it was some shitty little theater, and I quickly in the Westminster Mall in California, and I quickly became the manager, and then was like doing the film. Like they, I
You
was,
were the
and back then
projector?
it was the spools on the round things. Yeah, and I
Wow.
would hang out in the projection office, and my friend Tim, who worked in the same mall, would come hang out, and we would like hang out in the projection booth and watch movies. 'Cause nobody was ever
That's
in,
so
nobody came to that
cool.
theater. It was just
Yeah.
empty. We would just watch movies and drink and play cards up there. It was fun.
At
So you
one
saw every
point,
movie then? A lot
Yeah.
of
What's
movies.
that?
You saw a lot of movies then, like almost all of them.
Back then, yeah, but that,
Yeah.
and since then I've seen a lot of movies. Yeah, this is when I was 17. I worked there.
Wait, did you ever bring a girl up there?
Yeah.
Nice.
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 But there was at one point there was a full-on job called a projectionist, where like there was like a professional person who would like cut the reels together. Like, did you do any of that?
Yeah, we had to. Yeah.
Really?
You would cut the
gotta
reels
stick
together?
the thing in the thing and snap it down.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, like Fight Club.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's nice.
So you had to be there. Like you couldn't leave.
I think they were called Daisy. The projectors that they had there were the Daisy reels, I think is what they were called.
Interesting.
And it was like the flat one. You put the pull spool in it. But yeah, they would come in like multiple things, and you had to put them together.
Oh wow.
But
wild.
now it's all digital.
they're just playing Netflix
These
up
kids
there.
with their phones. Yeah. I don't know what the internet is. I'm old.
Dude. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to kind of show you my progress on the screenplay and share the wisdom that I've kind of picked up about really like relying on an accountability partner to kind of move things along. Because at this point, like we're doing my first draft. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not trying to get, feedback necessarily or like mentorship, like you're saying. I'm just looking for velocity. So I need somebody to just like put a fire under my seat, hold me accountable, keep me going. And that's where it's been really great. It's kind of changed the way I'm thinking about personal projects now. I think that I should have an accountability partner for all of my personal projects, like maybe even for like my music and things like that. Like Travis, did you make any beats this week? Like, oh,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's cool. What's the thing that surprised you about this process that you maybe going into it didn't realize that you would really enjoy, or maybe something that's
regarding the accountability partner angle, or just like the overall
just screenwriting in general?
I think that idea that the structure requirements of a screenplay have really helped me, and I I thought that would hold me back. Like, oh, I want to be creative. I want to do my own thing, my own way. But it turns out that like having these narrow rails that guide the flow of general stories, it helps me to like easily make decisions that I didn't need to take time making, and then I could really focus on the things that are creative and interesting and
creating the visually more so.
Limitations are some of the best things for creativity.
To have some structure to it.
And there's also
it gamifies creativity as well.
That's true.
Like doing a thing within these constraints, it becomes a gamification, and you're playing a game within a game where you're reaching to achieve that as well as the creation, and when those limits are like easily understandable, and you're not making decisions, they're kind of making decisions for you, and you're working within that constraint. It does help with creativity a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think if someone follows these constraints or like to a T, it makes a really great piece of art and film, or do you think it's more like pushing or tapping those limitations and like the boundaries of that?
I think that anything within that spectrum can be a great piece of art. It depends on what it is and the audience consuming it. But that being said, there is something about art when it comes to like pressing boundaries. And it is like for like in jazz, right? They say you got to learn how to play in the pocket before you can play out of the pocket.
Yeah.
Or in music, they'll say it's the notes that you don't play, right? Like learning that system, and then you can work outside of it and get creative. But I always think about the quote from I actually don't know who it was, but it's craftsmanship overcomes creativity. So creativity is nice, but when you know the rules, you know the limitations, that kind of is consistent. You can do consistent output.
Yeah.
And then get creative.
One thing that I was really kind of like opening my mind to is about the idea of storytelling and how that kind of works. And it's almost as if storytelling exists and like a science, and humans have kind of uncovered the laws of it. And so like, for example, like gravity exists whether humans are aware of it or not. And, you know, through a bunch of historical moments, we've kind of learned about gravity. A few different people, you know, we have Newton, we have the guy with the mustache and the funny hair, what's his name? Einstein. We have a bunch of people who, you know, Hawkins, what's his name?
Stephen Hawking.
Hawking.
Yeah, Hawking.
The wheelchair guy.
Wheelchair bro, who have kind of like really, really accelerated our understanding of this thing that exists, and it would exist whether we understood it or not. I feel like I'm kind of seeing storytelling as one of those natural
You're saying it's an emergent thing.
I'm saying that like there have been
on its
here we go. So Plato identified that there is a beginning and a middle and an end, and he's like, hey, did you know stories have beginnings, middles, and ends? They got to have those things, or they're not really stories. And everybody's like, really? He's like, yeah, I'm a philosopher, trust me. And then Joseph Campbell like identified the hero's journey. He's like, well, and that's a refinement of, you know, Plato. And there's other people in between, but those are some big ones. And he said, like, he's like, a hero will do this, and then they'll come back to their place having been changed, and that's a story. Okay. And then there's this guy named Hammond, who's the guy that does Rick and Morty and Community.
Harmon.
Dan Harmon. Yes, sorry. I just lost his name for a second. But Dan Harmon has this thing called a story circle. And a story circle is a refinement of the hero's journey, but it's not about the journey of the character. It's about the structure of the story. And it's like basically, you know, a character exists in a world that has rules, and then they have a want, and then they have an obstacle, and then they get their want, but they pay a price for it. And then they are changed, and they return to the space having been changed. And so like it's more of a structure focused story circle than the character, you know, focus that Joseph Campbell had. And what's interesting about that is that he says that this story circle is scalable, that you can have like my whole movie is one story circle, but also the first and second and third acts are each a story circle, and each scene has its own little story circle. And like this is really, really interesting way of kind of analyzing what you're writing, analyzing what you're trying to accomplish with each scene, and making sure that they are accelerating in that really nice manner. Or else you could have these scenes that just plod along and they kind of don't go anywhere. It's like, because are they coming back? Like, are they like moving along and creating that motion? Yeah. And this is what I mean by like, it feels like there's all these like, you know, thinkers and writers and artists who have not like said this is a good process for a story, but have discovered the truth about story and have formalized it into a tool that you can understand.
That's interesting that how it's like the evolution of storytelling, because it's like in the beginning we were, you know, ever since painting on or writing on cave walls and sitting around the fire telling stories to like pass down traditions or teach lessons or you know, and then like now we have this visual medium where we can kind of just like, do you want to imbue something that's significant and like have meaning in it, or is it just like really cool and you're gonna blow a bunch of things up? Like it's like storytelling is like sometimes you have a lot of more expression that you can go into, and you try to like find things to resonate with people. That's where like it's always those different genres and different audiences. But
some stuff that I've been learning that's been really, really interesting and fun is learning about conflict. And sometimes there's a conflict, like, I'm trying to, type in the code for the bomb so it doesn't explode, and that's like obviously a conflict. There's a bad guy and a good guy and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's like levels of that. Like there's this one level that's called philosophical conflict, and the idea
Man
is like
versus himself,
like
or man versus God.
yeah, those are story models. But philosophical conflict is like when you take a character and you say, what do they believe? They believe that they believe that love can change people. And then you say, on the other side of the spectrum of the philosophy that they're espousing, do I have a character that represents that? And then when they come together, they have a clash. And it's not necessarily a clash of like a good guy fighting a bad guy, Neo versus Agent Smith. But what's really happening is that Neo represents something. He represents freedom. He represents like individuality. And Agent Smith represents something else. He represents the Matrix, which also represents like conformatism, which represents mind control, which represents these other types of things. So Neo is definitely fighting Agent Smith on the screen, right? And there's that like that's the best scene ever. But what's really happening is there's a battle of philosophy going on in front of you, manifested through these people. And I just like, I'm like learning about this type of stuff, and I'm like, what philosophies do my characters have? And I'm like,
that's kind of the fun thing, right? You get to take your philosophies, your ideas, and then make someone else say them or speak about them, and maybe some things that you're like kind of scared to say or put out there, but you create a character that would say that, and that's kind of like a part of yourself. But I remember you sharing with me recently a scene that you wrote, and it's like a storytelling moment, and there's a lot of philosophy involved in that. And I was like, well, are these all intellectuals? Because this is like a very intellectual type of thinking and story that they're using, or like it's like there's this one character that's the person that they think, but like you can't, I don't know, it's like trying to find how people actually talk to, there's those moments where you have those monologues and it hits hard, but like, do people actually sit around the table like, well, here's this beautiful story and just like know exactly how to tell it? I don't, it's like, how much are we willing as an audience to accept as real? And especially with your movie, I feel like what are you trying, like what audience are you trying to get to resonate with your film?
Yeah, only smart people can watch my film and understand it, if you think about it. Yeah, I think it is. I think there should be like a level of believability, but I think that kind of stuff should exist within the framework of the film. So, for example, Matrix, they're talking philosophy and whatever they are talking about, but it's within the boundaries of the film, and like what Trinity is like the power of love or whatever like that. But
this is interesting, talking about the boundaries of like storytelling and stuff. And earlier Janie was asking about like, what about pushing those boundaries? And we have some pretty good examples of when people push them in film and like went over the edge, like Mother with Darren Aronofsky versus Synecdoche,
do you like
New
Mother?
York.
Oh, I love both of those movies. Which one are you?
New York, I love.
Okay.
I'm a Charlie Kaufman fan, and even the Netflix thing that he did, I think it's called I've been thinking about ending it. That rides that wave of like almost too high concept where it loses its substance, but he brings
loved it.
He's able to ride that wave.
I've been thinking about ending things. You don't like Mother?
No, I think it went too high concept where the focus was on that, on being high concept, and it lost the substance. But I have to watch it again. But yeah, I didn't. I also when I first saw it, it was presented as a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
And when I was like, a horror movie by Darren Aronofsky, I could die after seeing that. I would love that, like a real legit.
Which other did you like? The Swan, Black Swan. Which Aronofsky movies do you like?
I mean, Requiem for a Dream and Pi when I was younger. And The Fountain is one of the best stories ever told in film. Like The Fountain was one of the most ambitious stories ever told.
What? The Fountain?
Yeah. I would say
That's
Pi,
beautiful.
Requiem for a Dream, and The Fountain are like masterpieces of his. The rest of it was
in
tight
that one.
too. Wolverine is in that one.
Yeah,
and it hurts every time.
Yeah, I love like the hair standing up.
The part where he breathes on it?
It's just like the close of the hair standing up.
Yeah.
It's like an ASMR
Yeah.
thing for me. That gives me tingles.
But he
Okay.
fell off after Noah.
You didn't like Mother. Did you like Noah?
Mother, no, Noah was horrible. I
Dude,
hate Russell
okay.
Crowe.
The first time I watched Noah, I wasn't really into it, but I did watch it this year. And I was just like, not bad, actually. Pretty good.
I rewatched that. I was hoping
Noah?
maybe I'd
Yeah.
see something in it, but it's. I'll try. I'll watch it again, and I will
thought it
watch
was
Mother
lit
again, and I'll
because
report back here.
It was like, I liked it. Anyway, what were you saying? You're saying you're going to contrast Aronofsky versus.
Well, I was just saying about pushing those boundaries. I mean,
Okay.
Charlie Kaufman does that in Synecdoche. I think Adaptation was a Kaufman film also.
Yeah.
And yeah. Actually, the writer, it's him playing. It's incredibly like fourth wall. It's him. He is the character in the movie that Nick Cage is playing.
He wrote that right after being John Malkovich.
Yeah. But I think Spike Jones directed John Malkovich.
Directed that. But yes, in the beginning of the Adaptation, you can see the ending of being John Malkovich. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I gotta do a whole marathon again of Kaufman.
Because the backstory of that film is that Kaufman wanted to like John Malkovich was a breakaway hit, and then he was like, oh, I need to write another one, and then he had huge writer's block.
Yeah,
and that's like the backstory for this movie, which is about a writer having writer's block. Yeah,
and that's why I brought it up earlier. You were talking about like writers doing 95%, and that last 5% they can't finish. But he's struggling with writer's block in that movie.
Yeah. And Nick Cage, though. I mean, gosh, I love Nick Cage. I'm excited about.
And that's one of his best. That's hands down one of his best films.
Have you seen Pig? Con Air. Face Off. Have you seen Pig?
We talked about Pig. We talked about Pig on one of his podcasts. You love Pig.
It's so, dude, when I watched that movie, it just really pulled all my hearts out.
Really?
Oh, I loved it.
I gotta watch it again. It kind of is not memorable.
There's a few like
really any
monologues he has, and I'll bring it up again. I said it before, but like there's this part where he says, love this. He says, "We don't get a lot of things to really love in this life." And that just it hit me like a truck, bro. I was like, yeah, you're right, bro. We don't get a lot. I gotta take care of the things we love, man. Like I loved it. It was incredible.
Yeah. Well, you saw that movie during the pandemic when we were all together, like in Utah, right? Is that when you saw it?
That's right.
Yeah. So like, I'm sure those beats hit hard for you because it was like.
Because he's like a recluse, and he was like all exiled and stuff, and like we were too. We were like bundling up for the pandemic. But then he's in a movie I want to see recently called Long Legs. Apparently, it's supposed to be really, really scary.
Oh God!
Have you seen it?
I started watching it.
Okay, you turned it off.
Oh no!
I did. I think that the whole budget of that movie went on Nick Cage and then like viral social media hype.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta watch it, but like I during the trailer, it's like the best thriller since Silence of the Lambs, and it's like really building it up. And it seems to have been hyped because I hear about it on like podcast. I hear people talking about it, and like so there's clearly hype efforts going into it.
It's hard when things get hyped up too much, and then you're like, eh.
See, that's the thing. Like Max is, I will take every recommendation that Max has. But also when he says thumbs down to a movie, I'm like, okay, whatever, because you're a harsh critic. You're a harsh critic, and that's what makes your recommendations so valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not recommending.
Is the movie enjoyable? I don't know. I haven't seen the whole. But the few scenes I saw, especially from Nick Cage, it's like, okay, Nick Cage. Be Nick Cage. Yeah. Be the guy that you're in certain scenes. Like it's
he was Nick Cage in a recent movie. Do you see that one? Where he was like
The Eternal Weight of Talent.
Yes. Did you like that?
It was okay. It was with Pedro Pascal. I really just like the title because I have a weird connection to the eternal lightness of being and Nietzsche's concept of the eternal weight of being.
Oh, okay.
From a dream, it's a long story.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have so I saw the title and I was like, and then didn't have the substance that I thought it would from the title.
I
Or maybe that
realize
was
I'm
the
just
point.
asking you what you think about movies for the past 20 minutes.
I love talking about movies. We can talk
I
about movies
know.
this whole
Dude.
time.
Film is such a great medium. I love it.
Yeah.
What was the point you were
Very
making,
good.
though? I think I interrupted you so many times.
Well, we were just talking about pressing the boundaries of the limits of like these structures, and you were saying like story devices that are part of the structure of storytelling, but those are absent in movies like Synecdoche, New York, and I've been thinking about ending things in Mother, and that is where you see avant-garde. That's where art occurs, where it's on that edge and it's almost not good, or they're taking chances. You know?
Yeah, taking chances.
I mean, it's all art, but there's something. I guess what you would describe that when it is on the boundary is avant-garde, right? But that's a weird thing to say because like comedy is art, and there are comedians that press boundaries, and you would call them like edgy or something. You wouldn't call them avant-garde, although it is avant-garde art to a certain extent, but it's not high concept. I guess avant-garde also has to be high concept, right? Is that the definition?
I don't know. It's a fancy French word.
I feel like, it's like in the fashion industry, it's like, yeah, it's high concept. Is, yeah, I would say.
Miss Jana, you look amazing
What's up,
today.
Mohammed?
Oh,
thanks for joining,
Mohammed.
Thanks for your comment, Mohammed.
Oh,
Um,
blush emoji.
I'll be looking cute too, right? Come on.
I have another film mechanism that I really am enjoying learning about, and this is symbolism. So I was learning about how you connect a physical object. So a symbol is a philosophical idea or a belief or an emotion manifested physically. So like a key of a door, and that somebody has a reason to imbue meaning into the key. And so a symbol is something, that's physically manifested. And then if you see it often enough and it's used in a way that evolves, that's called a motif. And the idea of what that key represents and how it's used over time, that symbol represents and used over time, is called a theme. So this is really, really exciting for me because like when you learn these things, because I'm learning these in tandem as I'm writing, and so I'm like, oh, motif, symbol, theme, ooh. And so like I go back to my script and I'm like, oh, they touch they use the radio a lot. Oh, maybe that's a symbol. How can that symbol change over time? Like, so I have a symbol of mirrors. There's these parts where he looks in the mirror, he's reading what is it called? A mantra. So he has like a little sticky note on his mirror. He takes it off, he reads his mantra, puts it back. And this is a moment where we're seeing the symbol of a mirror, because a mirror is about reflection. It's about the truth, right? Mirrors are about truth, or maybe even they're about lies, because, and he reads this mantra, and it's a great moment where he's telling the camera exactly what he believes. Because like one of the difficulties of characters, like how do you express what they believe? The audience needs to know what they believe. And then when they interact their conflict, how does that belief evolve? Like that's, that's like the exciting part of it, right? Like, so like I have these like little symbols. Like there's this one part where he looks in the rearview mirror at his son, and he says a few things, right? And he's using that mirror again. He doesn't look back at him and talk. He uses the mirror, and so I'm like, oh, the mirror could be I'm like learning these things, like, ooh, what's
that's so cool.
Here, Yeah.
I'm looking at the man.
Okay, well.
Love it.
I've expended my excitement about this topic right now.
I'm excited to see the movie.
Yeah, me too. Yay!
I have a fantasy.
And hear about it when you're ready to talk about it.
Well, after I'm done writing, or at least the first draft, because like apparently you have to do a lot of drafts. That's important.
Yeah, probably like 2 or 3. This
one guy on this video, he was like,
he said 8.
I don't show it to anybody unless I've had 8 drafts. And I was like, bro.
I can't remember who it was, but they said write drunk, edit sober, which I like. But I think that could be kind of updated to write drunk and then let ChatGPT do your drafts and edits.
Bro. Yeah. I find like when I was doing the structure phase of the story, like when I was doing like that, the Trello type of thing, I was like very like it was me 100%. And then when I'm writing scenes, I go to ChatGPT a lot, and I go, hey, ChatGPT, like by now, you know my characters, you know my world. Like this is my character. I need to transition into this idea. What do you think? And like, it'll create a table of options, and I'm like, oh, option number 2 seems really good. What do you think we should call that? And then like it'll give me some ideas. So it's really fun to use it in that mode. But I like. I'm happy that I did not use it for the structure of my story, because I wanted to tell the story that was in there, not there. But ChatGPT is like helping me
fill in the blanks.
Do you feel like ChatGPT is kind of like Accountabilibuddy, where it's not going to give you constructive feedback? It's not going to be like, I feel like I appreciate you inviting me into your world a little bit, because you have invited me into it. And sometimes I'm so curious, and I think Max does this too, is like, we'll ask questions, and it's not to like poke holes. It's just like, well, how does this go with that? Or what is that? Like you're just asking a lot of questions. Do you think you can do that with ChatGPT to get it to analyze your story and like kind of be like, well, what would this be like to think ahead in a different act? Or
the thing about ChatGPT is that it is very short-sighted. So it's helpful to think in small scenes. It can help you think really well, but structure wise, like it'll get confused, it'll get like lost in its own thing. So it's very short-sighted. And then the other thing is that it never says no. It's very positive.
Yeah, it's very like, you got this. But
yeah, exactly.
Would it be able to help you?
Right.
It's a new thing I learned about recently.
Do you think it would help you to establish like a motif type thing, or is that like purely that's the fun part of it, is that that's a creative thing that you get to control, or like not control, but
it could, like I could see it like if I identify a symbol and I'm like, hey ChatGPT, my character is looking in the mirror and I've used it these ways, how can I use it now? Like ChatGPT is definitely good at drawing lines between 2 dots. Connecting. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if I'm like, here's a dot, it's a mirror, I want to use it again, this is where I want to land. What are some ideas for the middle? That's where ChatGPT really shines. And it's fun, and I have this like little, tactic I use with it. And I go, give me a table of options with the last column of the table being rationale. Why is that a good option? And then that's a really great way to make ChatGPT like to think out loud in options. Yeah.
And then you just end up in a maze of mirrors.
Yeah, I mean, you could, right? It does, like in some, like oftentimes, I'm going to stop myself right there. But I was going to say, oftentimes it's super corny and very basic what it recommends. But then sometimes it's freaking gold. You know what I mean? Like it recommends something that I didn't even connect. And I'm like, that. That, exactly.
Cool. You know who William S. Burroughs is?
I heard the name. Yeah, I don't know if I've read anything.
Beat writer and poet from the mid-1900s.
He read Howl? No, that was
Allen Ginsberg.
Right?
But he was homies with all those guys, Jack Kerouac and Cassidy and Allen Ginsberg. But he did this thing that he would call cut-ups, and he would take books and just cut them up randomly and mix them up and put them together in kind of words would form, and it would just give you just another form of pattern recognition to choose from, to curate from. And that kind of is what ChatGPT is like, obviously, times a million, right? It's
like a large-scale cut-up.
It is. Yeah. It's this large-scale cut-up, and it's not necessarily random, but it is coming from such a large data set that it may as well be random to you, right? Like what you just said, like, I didn't even see this connection.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like this, 2024 version of the mid-1900s William S. Burroughs cut-ups in some
I like
sense.
it. Yeah. I like it.
Do you remember like 2017-18 time where they were talking about you remember pre-pandemic? No. So
Barely. Wow.
They were talking about how AI like had at that moment had written every possible combination of words that there could be written. Do you remember that?
No, but I don't think that's true.
Monkey typewriter thing?
It was just like, I felt like for some reason at the time I remember feeling like, oh, that's
I don't remember hearing that.
Because anything I say
every possible
or write, well, it's kind of like the idea of like what we're saying right now has been written in some database somewhere, that even this conversation. And so like anything you ever say or write is like already been done before. And it kind of was like this little bit of like, oh, like sadness around it.
Maybe
that is kind of
power, but
But it has to hold us
is
back.
that just every word? Because we already have dictionaries, right? Like cataloging every
Right,
word. If
yeah.
you're going to catalog every possible sentence,
Mm-hmm.
in what, English, in all languages, like
Yeah.
there's that I think maybe they were saying like the computing power to do so possibly.
Yeah.
But I don't remember
That's a better
hearing that.
understanding of that. Because yeah, at the time I was just like, oh, so what I'm saying right now is.
But I've brought that up about ourselves, right? Like you know the letters of the alphabet. You know how to rearrange them in your subconscious to create words. You know so many words in your unconscious mind, and you can combine them unconsciously in any way that you do kind of have access to an insane amount of unknown information just by the
Yeah.
cut ups in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your unconscious mind, you know, and you can learn information from reading a sentence, and you can construct quite literally any sentence in your mind. So unlocking the secret words that reveal information that you didn't already know is the secret, is the trick. But you have kind of access to all possible combinations in your own head.
Right.
And what does that mean for us and pattern recognition and our own?
What's wild is that we
understanding.
access that stuff on the fly. When
Oh
we
my
speak
gosh.
sentences,
Yeah.
we don't really know the
Linguistics.
end of the sentence before we
Yeah.
start speaking. And if you've ever
Yes,
seen somebody, if you've
spin
ever seen
bars.
somebody, no,
No, seriously, like freestyle
What?
rap is like so amazing in that way.
Sure.
Where, like they're just
Spitting bars.
spin
Spit
bars.
what I was gonna say though is if you've ever
I
seen
need 8
anybody
bars, homie.
recite something by rote, like that they've memorized, if you've ever seen somebody do it, like
Oh,
say,
yeah.
say a quote or lyrics that they've memorized, they have an there's a way of speaking that feels very unnatural about that, even though they try to make it feel natural. Anything that comes out by rote that you memorized has that stink on it, which is like, this is not real time. You're telling me about some other time and place. And
You're accessing different areas of your brain.
that's true. Yeah.
To recall something rather than like come up with something on the spot.
Yeah.
You're doing different types of recall when you're doing it on the spot. Yeah.
We're gonna be done. I'm gonna wrap up this episode. I want to give you a little bit of a brag.
Oh.
A little. We'll still talk in the off thing, but we're gonna hang up.
Yes.
But I want to give a little brag before we're done. The other night, I was telling the kids to go to bed. You know, I'm like, hey, go to bed, and the kids were like, my son, he's so sweet. He goes, I was like, you should be brushing your teeth when I said, but you know, like I was getting a little annoyed. It was late. And he goes, sorry, Dad. And I was like, I don't want you to be sorry. I want you to be asleep. And my daughter, she's in the other room. And she goes, bars.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty
And I couldn't be angry after that. I started laughing. I couldn't be angry.
So hard.
It changed the mood immediately. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dev Tips. I appreciate my co-hosts Max and Jana for allowing me to talk about my screenwriting project, and also something that you should have learned this week is to embrace the idea of accountability and to foster accountability partners when you're working on things that you need motivation. If you've been working on something that you just haven't really gotten to that stage yet, tell somebody that you want them to ask you about it next week, you know, and keep that relationship strong by doing what you say you're going to do. All right, everybody.
Wait, thank you, Clark, and thank you,
yeah.
Mohammed, for joining the chat. We appreciate you.
Yeah, keeping that chat warm.
All right,
see y'all.
Ciao, everybody.
Bye.